So you guys have called the IFE industry an inefficient, bloated sector that is the last major consumer media space still largely untransformed by the internet. Tell us how you really feel. And more importantly, how has this message been received over the past few days? Because it's quite strong to come into an industry that's all about in-flight entertainment and with that message.
Well, first to speak to that message, when I say it's the last when I say it's the last undisrupted consumer digital space, what I mean is that if you look at all of the consumer spaces that involve anything digital in the past 10 or 20 years, whether it's music, film, photography, video, all of those things, telephones, games, all of that kind of stuff has completely changed because of the arrival of the internet and consumer hardware. None of that stuff has happened yet in flight, and yet all of the pieces are now in place for it to happen. Connectivity is rolling out, it's going to be ubiquitous in another 5 or so years. Already people carry on board in their pockets things that are far more sophisticated than anything in any seatback system. Plus they come preloaded with the things that they're already interested in. So all the pieces are there for a sudden and complete transformation of the in-flight space.
Yeah, we came to APEX last year in Long Beach, and this idea was more than just a gleam in our eye. But we didn't have a product. We had some mock-ups. We had some ideas. We had some things to talk about. But it was fundamentally conceptual at that point. But we walked around the floor and we talked about this idea with a lot of other people, and people really didn't see it coming. And that it was one of the things that convinced us to really take the plunge and do this and commit to this full time. That people did not really see the writing on the wall in terms of what connectivity would mean for this industry. And now they do. The difference between last year and this year is very, very stark.
So Sparksheet at APEX is all about making those connections between the in-flight world and the broader content, media, and marketing universe. So could you talk a little bit about how what's happening in the IFE world is connected to what's happening in the rest of the media world? What lessons can be maybe derived from those other industries?
I think the big picture, if you want to see what's going to happen in IFE in the coming decade or so, you need to look to what's happening in the consumer internet. We already see some of the hottest things happening here are what's going on in consumer internet, whether it's social media, Twitter, Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. You hear that on people's lips everywhere. And that's because those are the biggest trends in the consumer internet. That's an indication to me that the consumer internet is about to infiltrate and take over and completely transform IFE, and it's not on the terms of existing IFE, it's on the terms of the consumer internet. Besides connectivity, people are already coming on board with devices that are pre-configured to work with Facebook or whatever. Everyone's got their accounts, they've got their cookies, you just open it up and it goes. If you're coming onto a plane and spending all of your time with a brand that has historically had nothing to do with in-flight entertainment, that fundamentally is the basis for transformation. Where it goes from there is up to all of those players. All of a sudden there's room for people to come into the IFE space who've never been there before, like us, and have a direct relationship with the passengers.
Tell us about the role of content in MondoWindow. Where will it come from, and who's going to pay for it?
There are 5 categories of content in MondoWindow. Points of interest on the ground, regional content, destination content, content having to do with the airplane, and content that has to do with everything above the ground. So it's weather and atmosphere and turbulence and all that kind of stuff.
Stars.
Every one of them is centered around the user as they're flying through space, and it's relevant to what they're doing. Now the content sources, we have on the site now, if you go to MondoWindow.com, you see a bunch of sort of demo content from things like Flickr and Wikipedia. There's some SoundCloud stuff, there's some of our own proprietary content. We can basically work with any library of content that can be mapped onto those 5 categories. So we're talking some very, very big global brand name content companies who are very excited about this, because if you think about it, if you're a big content company, you're generating content every day for your newspaper or for your website or for your channel, and then it goes into your library and it just kind of disappears, it's done. What we're able to do by slicing content up geographically is to daylight a lot of legacy content that may not fit onto their premium daily properties, but all of a sudden it's still relevant. For example, if you have a documentary about the Mississippi River, you show it on your channel, maybe 1 million people will see it, whatever, and then it goes into the library and it's gone. We're bringing hundreds of thousands of people a day across the Mississippi River every single day. That content is going to be relevant for a set of people, basically forever.
Do you see any room for print content in the future of IFE? Is the in-flight magazine dead, or is there room to integrate it with the kind of stuff that you're doing?
I think
Yes.
there's definitely room to integrate. From what we know and who we've talked to, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. They pay for themselves. They pay their own way, even though they're heavy and they take up space and weight. They still pay their own way. And so as long as they keep doing that, they'll stick around. But the world that they live in is getting much bigger. And it used to be that was pretty much the only way to reach passengers in a flight. There was the in-flight magazine. There was maybe you could put an ad on the napkin or something like that. And people are putting ads on tray tables and overhead bins and things like that. But fundamentally, that's all pretty one way, and it's not terribly interactive. And so by having web properties and bringing web business models into the cabin, we can create a new world in terms of how to reach passengers.